By Thursday this week, most royal watchers had written Prince Harry's UK visit off as a disaster, a lost court case, a snubbed security request, and a very public housing mess with his own father's palace. Then, on Friday afternoon, everything changed in about 6 hours. Here's the full week, in order, and why the ending matters more than the headlines from earlier in the week suggested.
Would this visit be the return of Harry and Meghan to the UK? Would the King finally see his grandchildren?
I did wonder whether anybody's got a picture.
Would Harry find a peace with his royal family?
Sometimes it's just a difficult day.
It's been a week of confusion
The best sport in the hospital?
and reunion.
Harry
Daniela
arrived in the
Ralph.
UK on Monday, July 6th, for a 5-day visit built around marking the one-year countdown to the 2027 Invictus Games, which will be held in Birmingham, the tournament he founded for wounded, injured, and sick service members. The plan, initially, included Meghan and their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, joining him. That plan started falling apart before he'd even landed.
And their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet. 6 years after leaving royal life and the UK behind, it was a chance for a moment of reconciliation, even a family reunion. But the key sticking point was security.
The first blow came over policing. Harry has argued for years that losing his automatic government-funded protection when he stepped back from royal duties makes it genuinely difficult to safely bring his family to Britain. That argument resurfaced hard this trip. Harry was told he wouldn't be offered a police protection team just hours after his itinerary was released to media under embargo on June 26. He then spent roughly a week arranging private security on his own. Meghan and the children were, initial reports suggested, set to miss the trip largely because of that denial. Then came what turned into a genuinely strange subplot. King Charles's household offered Harry accommodation at Buckingham Palace during the visit. Harry initially declined the offer on a Saturday morning, then tried to accept it later that same day. By then, palace aides reportedly believed it was too late to arrange staffing in time, and the offer fell through. Newsweek reported the timing was especially awkward because his stay would have overlapped with the judgment date in his lawsuit against the Daily Mail's publisher. Here's what's genuinely interesting, though. A YouGov poll of over 6,000 British adults, taken as this was unfolding, found 48% thought Harry should have been allowed to stay at the palace, versus just 27% who didn't. That's a notable gap from his general approval rating, which sat at only 30% as of April, meaning a real number of people who don't particularly like Harry still thought he should have gotten the room.
First thing this morning, the Duke's official spokesperson said Harry would be staying at the palace while visiting London this week. Just minutes later, a palace spokesperson said this wasn't true. Sources claim Prince Harry had not responded in time to their offer of
And
palace
then,
accommodation.
on Tuesday, the legal blow landed. Harry lost his long-running privacy lawsuit against Associated Newspapers Limited, publisher of the Daily Mail, a case where he became one of the only senior royals in over a century to testify in open court. The publisher called it an overwhelming victory. That judgment landing squarely in the middle of the visit made for about as bad a news cycle as Harry could have scripted for himself, if he'd wanted the opposite outcome. By Wednesday and Thursday, Harry pushed forward with the actual public-facing purpose of the trip anyway, a UK premiere of a documentary called Shoot the People in London, a visit to Birmingham Children's Hospital marking 20 years of the Well Child Nurse program, and appearances promoting Invictus. On Thursday, a special train nicknamed the Spirit of Invictus launched, and on Friday he was in Birmingham playing adaptive sports, pickleball and wheelchair rugby, with veterans training for next year's games. At one event, TV presenter Alison Hammond told Harry his family must be proud of him. His response, worth noting for how unguarded it was. He said they don't tell him every day, but he's proud of them, and they're proud of him too.
You know who's obsessed with Lego? My son Archie.
And then Friday afternoon, the story flipped. Buckingham Palace confirmed to Newsweek that King Charles and Camilla had met Harry, Meghan, and both children, Archie, now 7, and Lilibet, 5, at Highgrove, Charles's private residence. It was the first time Charles had seen the 2 kids in 4 years. He'd last seen them briefly in 2022, when they were 3 and 1. Newsweek's own framing of it was direct. Harry had salvaged one of the major goals of the visit despite the setbacks earlier in the week. Meghan hadn't been expected in Birmingham for the sporting events, and it was only confirmed in the early evening that she and the children were actually in the country at all.
Not responded in
ITV News had reported a possible Highgrove meeting was being discussed hours before it was confirmed to have actually happened.
The result of all of this,
We've spent all week ringing contacts in the UK and in California to try to find out if Meghan and the kids are coming over. Well, we finally got our answer, and it came from Buckingham Palace, who've told us that the King and Queen have met up with Harry, Meghan, Archie and Lilibet at Highgrove, the King's home.
It's worth including how this landed with the actual attendees at Invictus, not just the palace statement. Al Carnes, until recently the UK's Armed Forces Minister, told Newsweek the event was a genuinely positive thing, and made a point of stressing that whatever people think of Harry's titles, he's a veteran who served with real bravery. Sam May, a competitor who'd also met Harry at last year's Games in Canada, told Newsweek she assumed Meghan was celebrating from afar, a small, telling detail that most people at the actual event weren't fixated on the family drama at all. So did the visit backfire? Only if you stopped watching on Thursday. The honest recap is messier and more interesting than that. 3 real setbacks, the security denial, the palace housing fumble, the lawsuit loss, landed back-to-back in the first half of the week, any one of which could have defined the whole trip. But the actual stated goal, rebuilding some bridge with his father and letting Charles see his grandchildren, did happen on the last possible day it could have. Whether that changes anything longer term is genuinely unclear, but for one Friday afternoon in Gloucestershire, the version of this trip Harry needed actually happened. Tell us in the comments what you think if this trip and its hassles was actually worth it.